Hello everyone, I'm going to tie a predator pattern here. I know there's been some discussion about bull trout patterns, but this is generally the predator pattern I tie, whether it's for bull trout, char, pike, lakers, even a lot of the saltwater patterns that I use are this design. Andy Weiss in Germany started this style of predator pattern years ago, and it just made sense to me because it's flexible enough to add on weight if I can't get down deep enough, but where the weight's added on, there's no hinge point. So what I'm going to do is just take some white predator fiber. As you know, predator fiber is a synthetic. It is water resistant, or waterproof as opposed to water resistant, and so that makes for a very interesting material to easily shed water. Once you pick it up and do a back cast, virtually all the water is gone. So what I'll do is I'll just tie in the first clump of white predator fiber here, and then I'll just taper it back. I did spread it out originally a little bit, and so this will be the butt section. This imitation will imitate more so a Rocky Mountain whitefish and mountain sucker. And I just taper this, pull some this is called a hot olive, and again I'll just lay it in on top. Not quite the full length as the white, and I'll mark it here. Because what we're going to do is use the excess material in front of where this section here, I'm going to use it to build up a bit of a dam to create a little bit more robustness in the front section as we move forward in the tying of this pattern. So again, just spread that out nice and evenly, make sure it's good and tight. Drop in a half hitch or a whip finish here, and then you can apply I prefer to use a product called Mercury 300 as opposed to Zap-A-Gap. Reason this was used a lot in the frag business for corals, in the aquarium business, or even in the ocean in the scientific studies. Mercury 300 does not break down in the water, much like Zap-A-Gap does after a while. And so here, now what I'll do is do this again, but I'll do it on the underside. But I don't want the taper quite as long on the underside, so I'll reduce that material in size a little bit. Lay it out so that it's again spread evenly around the hook shank. If you don't get it right away, just spread this out, splitting between your finger and your thumb. Again, a couple of tight wraps. And then turn the pattern over, and I'll come up on top once I've spread the top, and then underneath, and pull all this material back, again making sure it's all spread nice and evenly around the hook shank. And we'll build that dam in front. And now what I'll do is I'll do this again, a little bit more of the hot olive, but I'll taper out the material, again marking it. And pulling that down. A little bit of, and one more time I'll do the same on the bottom. Spread that out nice and evenly. Throw in a whip finish. Put the material back over, and again spread this back. Bring my thread up in front. Build that dam directly in front of the material so it all lays back. Take a comb now and just comb it out a bit. You'll see it starts to take shape. And at this point I'll tie in some flash. And generally what I'll do is I'll tie in something, some crinkle flash or whatever you have or whatever you prefer. I don't overdo it, maybe a half a dozen strands is usually more than enough. And again, lay that, once it's tied in, pull it back. Build that dam one more time. So the last clump I put in, it'll be again more of this predator fiber, and what's called a baitfish olive. It's a pretty good match for mountain whitefish and for mountain suckers. I'll pull a relatively good sized clump. Again, I want to just sort of mark a taper here. And then I'll, the material that we're going to apply, I'll just cut a little clump out, and then we'll spread this out somewhat so that we have a nice natural taper. And just make sure that it's and again, this will lay on top. I'll bring it around the hook shank some, making sure again that thread is wrapped right directly in front of that last clump. I'll split this in half, bring the balance of it underneath. And make sure that it all pulls back really well. So when you build your dam, it'll all lay down nice and even. Just throw a little wax on. And 2-3 knot whip finish. And that fly is almost complete, except for just cutting up some of this material to make sure that taper is nice and even. And what I use there is a pair of scissors that have just kind of a serrated edge to them. And here again I can just thin this out. It's really what it is, a pair of thinning scissors. And once you sort of have that all kind of nicely tapered and thinned, it's easy enough to just take a comb and brush it. So it's a very easy pattern to tie. I just mix the colors accordingly to imitate different bait fish, lake trout, of course, it's a lot of Cisco, grayling, bull trout like grayling in the northern parts of the province. Again, you can do anchovies with this. You can mark it with a Copic marker if you choose. A lot of things that you can do. So if we just did a Copic marker, I'll just lay the pattern to the side here. And the opposite side again. And if you want, you can glue on some eyes, or you can just make your own if you choose. Again, with a Copic marker. It's usually what I prefer. I don't get too fancy on these. Most predators are pretty aggressive and will just hammer a fly anyways. So that's how I do my predator pattern. This is a 2/0. You can certainly do it in a 4/0 or a 6/0. And as you notice, the front of the shank is well exposed. And this is where I pinch on my split shot if I can't get down with a 4-foot leader on a high-speed, high-D line, whether it's a sink tip or a full sink. If I have short runs or short pools that are quite deep, it's very difficult to get down into them. So here I put on a split shot and directly on the hook shank, as opposed to in front of the fly on the leader or further up the leader. This gives me better control of the fly and imparts a better action. And I just find the whole system works better. It's a lot more versatile. I do the same again for pike and lake trout. With northern pike, searching for northerns in the summer period. Again, going very deep, 20, 30 feet. I'll do this again with the split shot right at the front of the eye of the hook, or at the front of the material on the hook shank, as opposed to putting it in front of the eye or further up the leader. Again, hope you enjoyed this. Take care. Thank you for watching.